Piece of stuff. Herb Gotti, Tired Lady 576. That is beautiful. I want to dive in. We're going to have a nice, healthy discussion about that particular thing. You said, please no hate, but can we change this whole taking stuff to detoxify the body when it's really eating foods, spices, and herbs that assist in the detoxifying the body, as the body already does that? So under normal circumstances, that probably would have worked. But what's happening nowadays is that the human body just doesn't seem to get the materials that's necessary to actually put itself through a proper process of detoxification, or what we call routine cleansing. It's just like your car. You know how you got an oil filter in your car and it kind of filters out some of the trash, but eventually that oil filter still needs to get changed? And it also depends on the type of car you're driving and how you're driving that car, which will determine how often you need to change that oil filter. Because, if you just putting along, you could probably get 3 months, maybe even 6 months if, you rock out with that synthetic. Put some miles on that race car, you better be switching that filter out like pretty much every month or every other month. By the way, this is just all pseudoscience. I'm just guesstimating this stuff. I don't know anything. This is just some stuff that I heard out of a comic book. Now that those community guidelines are taken care of. So we already know that a car and the human body is a complex system. And whoever figured that out also figured out that they're going to make sure that each one of those systems are going to have a problem. Let's just pick a random system. Let's talk about hormones. Keeping it simple, I like to call hormones instructions for the human body to follow. Grandpa back in the day, by the time he was 70, his testosterone was still through the roof. And it was higher than the average 30-year-old is today. So then the next question is, what are the contributing factors? Is it simply because we don't have the proper tools to detoxify ourselves? Or is there something else working against us? Because simple as bioaccumulation of certain compounds like dioxin, glyphosate, or any other type of endocrine disruptors will interfere with how your body receives instruction. Which means unless you make space for us to remove or recalibrate that instruction, our bodies will not detoxify itself. At least not to the rate, speed, and capacity that we're looking for it to do. Because if it was, then technically bioaccumulation would not be a thing, but it seems like every generation of people is just getting weaker and weaker and weak. I got 12-year-old clients coming in with hypertension. Like, what the f? And not only that, when we start looking at what some of these compounds actually do, like, for example, looking at glyphosate and dioxin, these are not things that are easily removed or detoxified from the body by any natural and normal means. You have to do it aggressively. We ain't even going to get into metal because that's a whole nother topic. Bump that, Jay. Talk about the metal. Okay, fine. So we'll touch on metal. Also another endocrine disruptor, which means when there's metal in the body, it interferes with how the body receives instruction. And those same natural instructions is what the body would, under normal circumstances, do to complete its routine daily detoxification that would normally happen, but it ain't happening. And although the food would be enough, if the food was good food, it's almost as though they knew not only to just add something to the food, they took something away from the food. Because remember, you can't have two things occupy the same space at the same time. And aluminum loves the central nervous system. You know, that brain stem, that brain, ooh boy, loves it. And trust me, you might need to take something to get aluminum out the body, or else, everyone that was having issues with problems with the brain, estrogen issues, testosterone issues, which seems to be very prevalent in the United States. I don't know. It just seems like a problem a lot of us are having. It would have been very easy for us to cancel that out with just finding the right type of food, and it would have went viral. So I totally support you. The food, it plays a massively huge factor. But we also want to take in consideration that when the food has something extra in it and they took something away, the next question is, what did they take away? And how do I get it back? Because it's not in the soil, so it's definitely not in the food. I mean, unless you happen to be getting your stuff imported from like overseas somewhere, we are screwed. We're screwed hard. I mean, really hard. Yo, it's like they said, oh, you want this asparagus? We're going to take out the copper and we're going to put in some extra glyphosate. We're going to also take out the boron because, God forbid, you may actually need that for your hormones and your estrogen, and you also need it for your bone density. But I don't know anything. I'm just saying. And then in return, they give you freaking glyphosate, which of course certain, industries have already said that it's perfectly safe and it's okay, which is why it's still in our food. It's so ingrained in our system. Like, we actually try to make genetic modifications of food so that it can tolerate the the glyphosate that's being used, and or we're trying to make the genetic modifications produce its own pesticide within its DNA structure. Yo, from the bottom up, the stuff is just bleh. So essentially, until we have a perfect environment with great soil and great access to good quality food, this is a supplement world. And you know what's funny? You know who knows that it's a supplement world? Guess what industry controls the vast majority of the supplements? It's the same jokers that control your drugs. Because they want to make sure that when you go out there and you go try those supplements, you're going to bring your ass right on back and go to that doctor to go get whatever it is that he's going to scribe for you. We call that the catch-22. So the experience that we have called life, we may start to experience these things where you're going to have one extreme to the next. So a person who was, for example, they were a hardcore carnivore, then all of a sudden they switch over and just become hardcore vegan. There's going to be a point as this scale slides from one side to the next that they're going to experience optimal health and well-being until they get all the way to the other end. And unless they are genetically predispositioned or that fits their genetic blueprint, they may start to notice that there are some deficiencies. I love veganism. It works. It may not be for everybody. Just like intermittent fasting, just like detoxifying, just like using certain types of products. It may not be for that particular person. Navigating that information can be very, very time consuming. That's why I always suggest some type of practitioner who knows what they're doing, who's going to actually take that time to navigate it and never expect it to be something that's going to happen like overnight. Give them at least 6 months, maybe even 12, because we've likely been effing our bodies up for the past 40 some odd years and something broke and we're looking for it to be fixed by like tomorrow. Nope, that's not happening. That's not happening. Yeah, look at this reishi mushroom. I'm about to make me some very, very relaxing shroom stuff, if you know what I mean. This is reishi. Don't judge me. I guess basically what it all boils down to is that whoever figured out that it's the food, they also figured out that it's not just the food you consume, the spices and the herbs you use. It's the clothes you wear. It's the cosmetics you're using. It's the air you're breathing. It could be any number of the stibbity stabs you may have received. Hell, it could be any number of the stibbity stabs grandma may have received, because bioaccumulation gets passed down from generation to generation to generation. So whenever the body has a toxin, the body will sometimes decide, I'm going to get rid of this toxin. So it's going out in two ways. And you know how it comes out? Childbirth, breast milk. Somebody's going to get the bag. And then guess what? We go to our doctor and we have a genetic predisposition. Oh, it's genetic. Don't worry about it. This is exactly what it is. Ask that joker what the catalyst is. That's a whole nother story. Because sometimes some bad expressions happen because it requires a catalyst in order for it to activate. I'm just saying, I may have read this in a comic book somewhere. I don't even want to get into how emotions actually play a massive part in whether or not the food is even going to work for you or not. And, spiritually, I just happen to be a firm believer that none of these plants is out here by accident. It's almost as though something or someone or some energy or entity knew that they were going to be needed at some point. The anti-inversion of holism. But no, absolutely. That was a really good question. And I did like that you had it in the series. I'm not digging. I'm just wanted to expound on it just a little bit more. So, keep bringing them. I wish I had more time to go through all of them, but I'm already stressed. I gotta go hug some trees. After I make some tincture out of this ginseng, because I'm trying to stay young and strong like Stedman. No one gets your Nutty Professor reference. I didn't even think about how much stress impacts that. And since we all live in this very, very special place in the U.S., that's going to play a huge factor. And it doesn't matter what type of food you're eating. You have to change the entire environment and the food and remove the toxins. And our bodies need help. And there's no way it's going to be able to do it on its own when it doesn't even have the basic raw materials to do it. We've went from leading a high-fat life to a low-fat seed oil engine machine that is just neutralizing the very foundation of the hormones that are supposed to be providing our bodies with instruction. And now it's instructing the body to go in the wrong direction. Peace and good health. Everybody out.